You're listening to Sips of Sanity, your toolkit for emotional and intuitive intelligence, or what we like to call the dirty work. Let's do it.
Welcome back. We're on day 4. This is Thursday, and we're still talking about our blocks and what prevents us from setting our healthy boundaries. And our first one today is going to be the automatic yes. And well, if we go back into our childhood, we can certainly see where we are trained to say yes, and that our no's are met with and it's something that makes us truly uncomfortable, right? So that we are discouraged from thinking that we have a choice.
I would say, too, that that's not the only reason we come to a high sense of urgency, right? An automatic yes indicates that you have a high sense of urgency. So if someone, we've talked about this a lot, if someone is creating a pressured situation, they're taking your time, right? We talk about time stealers, where you don't have time to assess your thoughts, your needs, your feelings, your desires, etc. It's just do this thing. And so you get this knee-jerk reaction that you're talking about, or an automatic yes, because everything in your life or everyone else's needs become more important than your own.
Yeah, and then you're talking about losing that ability for critical thinking. You're talking about the whole process that gets stolen, where the brain gets to develop, and you get to take your time. You get to do your critical thinking, make your own decisions, and feel your own feelings, and then look at some choices. You don't get to do any of those things, which are all critical to knowing how to set a boundary and to what boundary you even want. So your whole process of learning how to discover what a boundary could even be is gone.
So I think if you guys are recapping or writing down notes, beside automatic yes, write down my sense of urgency.
That's good, because those people could be long gone in your life and you still feel the sense of urgency, even though they're not even in your apartment or in your home or work with you or socialize with you. But it could be something that is still there on such a very deep level that you still don't give yourself the time to go through the critical thinking. And critical thinking, just because we say the word critical, doesn't mean it has to be important. Critical thinking meaning that you just...
Thinking is critical.
There you go. All thinking is critical, is what we're saying, including everything that you think or curious about or might want or don't know. That is, though, all of those things are things that are critical thinking. And I know that people listening to this might go, my God, I didn't even know that. So I'm glad that you're telling them to take their time, to hit pause and to write those down if they're in that position themselves. And if you were raised in an environment where if you did set a boundary, that people challenged it all the time, every single time, then you are also being trained to say yes, because you know it's constantly going to be met with a challenge. So your yes will just come as an avoidance to feeling challenged. And you might also have been taught in early childhood that if you set a boundary and people challenged it, that you owed them an explanation. And as a result of maybe not knowing what the explanation might be, or it might be that you're ashamed of what that explanation might be, or you just don't want to share it, you might decide that you just don't want to explain it. And as a result, yes is easier.
Right. So at that point, people need to go back to the block that we talked about where you are resisting an emotion. Right? Because if this was your reality in your younger years, but it's not anymore, or you're perpetuating relationships where you're in relationships with people that are still doing this to you, that's a bigger thing to look at. But at this point, you're also avoiding a particular emotion. And so the result is an automatic yes.
I wanted to interject here today that all of these things were in my past. And one of the things, I know our show isn't focused on solving it, But I thought I would just throw one quick little thing that I learned and that I'm still reminded of on a daily basis that I need to do, because a lot of that was in my own past. And that was to slow down. Remember when you said about that time is taken? So, somebody's sitting here today going, oh God, I wish they'd throw me one bone and tell me one good thing to do with all these blocks. Maybe this is a good time just to say, here's your bone, and take back time. Give yourself a couple of minutes to breathe or just to insert into conversations. And at first you might...
Insert what into
Silence.
conversations?
Sorry, Kelly. Time. Thank you. Just time. And by that I mean specifically silence, so that you don't have to say yes and override your thinking and your feelings, so that you can just give yourself that time to observe it. Or, there's other tools, of course, but I'm just trying to say that one of them, a small one, but a gracious one, is just to go slower.
I disagree with the way that you're even presenting this as a tool. I don't think it's small, and I don't think it's gracious. I think it's huge, and I think it's necessary. And
True.
I'm not saying that to intimidate people. I'm saying it because if you skimmed over and went, "Oh, that's nice. Maybe I'll try it." It's the only way that you're going to combat your automatic yes. And I wouldn't word it as silence. I would word it as a pause, because the silence isn't for you to do fuck all. It's a pause for you to insert a different action. Yeah, and I don't mean busy, chaotic, or busy, rushed, because that's the opposite of what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to put a pause between the demand or the request and your yes. So your pause is going to be the only thing, it's your fucking lifesaver that is going to say, okay, there's room for me now, because there wasn't room for you before. Somebody took that away, and you've also been perpetuating taking that away. It's the room for you to ask your questions, your check-in, to put back the critical thinking so that you can actually show up with a different answer, whether that's an honest yes or no.
Yeah, and I didn't mean gracious to the other person.
I didn't either, but I also don't think it's gracious to you.
I understand what you're saying. It's self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, yes, but we're still using these light, fluffy words as though it's optional. And that's what I'm trying to hammer home. It's not.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
And because, again, someone might look at this and be like, yeah, that might be gracious. Maybe I'll try that on Sunday.
Okay.
No, every single time. It has to be the thing that you're in practice of if you say you want growth.
Perfect. I like your language correction.
Thanks.
Very, very much. I appreciate that, because you're bringing the forcefulness to it that people who typically would say yes actually need. So it's good. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so we're going to wrap that one up for today, and we have one show left for you.